My name is Caleb Morgan, and I was 31 when I found out I was never really part of the future my parents were planning. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in Eugene, Oregon, in the house I practically helped keep standing, financially and physically, for over 6 years. I was there, like I often was, helping my dad sort through a mess of paperwork. His taxes were late, his car registration was expired, and neither he nor my mom could figure out their online banking even after I'd shown them at least 3 times. The dining table was covered in file folders, coffee mugs, and unopened envelopes. I'd just pulled out the scanner when I saw it, a dark red leather folder tucked behind some insurance papers. Estate plan, last will and testament. I froze. I wasn't looking for it. But I opened it, not because I wanted to dig, but because I deserved to know. The words were so clear, so unmistakable, they felt like a punch in the chest. All property, liquid assets, and remaining estate will be passed to our youngest son, Zachary Morgan. I read it twice, then 3 times. My name wasn't in there. Not once. No mention of the thousands I'd poured into home repairs, grocery runs, utility bills, not even a footnote, just one polite sentence at the end. We leave this with love and respect for both our sons. I stood there in the quiet, my hand trembling around the paper, my jaw clenched, and just then, Dad walked back into the room. "Caleb," he said casually, holding a stack of envelopes. "You find the tax stuff?" I turned around and held up the will. "This?" I asked, my voice too steady for how I felt. "Is this what you were hoping I wouldn't see?" His eyes flicked to the folder. His mouth twitched. Then came the sigh. "It's not what you think." God, I hated that phrase. I shook my head. "So everything goes to Zach? Really?" My dad didn't respond right away. His face looked caught somewhere between shame and frustration. "You have a good job," he finally muttered. "You're doing fine on your own." It landed like a slap. "And Zach?" I asked. "The guy who's been couch hopping for years? The one who hasn't paid his own phone bill since high school?" "He's trying," Dad offered weakly. "No," I said. "He's not." But clearly, none of that matters. I didn't throw anything. I didn't shout. I just set the folder on the table, walked toward the front door, and grabbed my coat. And before I walked out, I said the one thing I never thought I'd say to the man I'd been trying to take care of. "I hope Zach knows how to fix a roof. Because I'm done." The front door had barely creaked open when I heard her voice. "Caleb?" My mom stood at the end of the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her face flushed like she'd just come from the kitchen. Her eyes dropped to the folder in my hand. I didn't need to say a word. She knew. I stepped back in, slowly, almost mechanically, and held the will up toward her like evidence in a courtroom. "This true?" I asked. She looked at my father, who looked at the floor, then nodded. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet, almost tired nod. "We just thought you didn't need it." Those words again, same script. I stood there, blinking, trying to figure out if I was hearing things. "You didn't think I needed it," I repeated. "After everything I've done? After I've been helping you cover his mistakes for years?" Her voice went soft, as if the softness would somehow make it less cruel. "You have your own life, Caleb, a stable job, a nice apartment. Zach's struggling. We need to make sure he's okay after we're gone." I laughed. It came out hollow, like the sound of shoes on an empty church floor. "So that's it, huh? He f***ks up and gets rewarded. And I carry this family for half a decade and don't even get a thank you." Her face flushed deeper. "That's not fair." "No," I cut her off. "What's not fair is watching you coddle him through every screw-up while I shovel money into a house I don't even own. What's not fair is getting told I'm so responsible, and then getting tossed aside the moment there's a decision that actually matters." The hallway felt smaller than it had 5 minutes ago. "Caleb, honey, please," she said, taking a step forward. But I was already backing away. Not in fear, in disbelief. I opened the door again. "I don't want your money," I said, "but I damn sure deserved a conversation." Then I left. For real. This time. The first week of silence was peaceful. The second week felt like I'd left the stove on somewhere. I stopped answering their calls. I didn't reply to Zach's texts. I didn't check in, didn't drive over when it stormed. Didn't Venmo them for groceries or send a plumber when the upstairs sink started leaking again. I didn't even feel guilty. Not yet. Then the third week rolled in. And I got a text from my dad. Hey, taxes on the house are due. You got the bank info? Not, how are you? Not, can we talk? Just taxes. Like I was still on payroll. I stared at the message for 5 full minutes before replying. Not my house. Not my problem. It only took a few hours after my last message before Mom chimed in. Caleb, please don't be like this. We need to talk. I didn't reply. She tried again later that night. We're still your parents. Family takes care of each other. That line. It made my stomach twist, not because it wasn't true, but because I knew exactly what she meant by it. Family takes care of each other had always been code for, you take care of us. Zach gets to exist. But this wasn't the same Caleb they raised. I left her on read. Then, just when I thought the guilt train had pulled out of the station, Zach decided to climb aboard. His message hit my phone at 11:14 p.m. The same time he used to text me asking for gas money or if I had any leftover takeout. Bro, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them like you always do. I stared at it for a minute. Smiled to myself. Of course he didn't get it. I typed back. You're the favorite, remember? I'm sure you've got it covered. 10 minutes later. Dude, grow up. It's just money. Just money. From the guy who hadn't paid rent in 4 years. The same guy who once told me, bills are a scam created by boomers. Then you won't mind using some of your inheritance to cover the taxes. I replied. He didn't respond. For once, silence was golden. The next day, I got a new text, from Mom again. Caleb, we never meant to hurt you. You know how Zach is? He needs more help than you do. Please just come talk to us. I locked my phone and tossed it on the coffee table. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I felt clear. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't running to fix something for them. I wasn't scrambling to make sure their lights stayed on or their fridge stayed full or their guilt stayed quiet. I made pasta that night. Real pasta, not the kind you throw together when you're exhausted from hauling bags of mulch for your dad's yard. I sat down. I ate. I didn't look at my phone once. They could live with their choices. I finally was. The days that followed were the quietest I'd known in years. Not silent in the lonely kind of way, silent in the peaceful kind of way. No requests. No passive-aggressive voicemails. No pressure to drop everything and be the hero. Just me, my apartment, and the space I never realized I was allowed to have. I started running again. I'd stopped after the third knee injury fixing Mom's deck last summer. But now I ran every morning through the wooded trail behind my apartment complex. And each step felt like I was running further from the old version of myself. The one who carried everything for everyone. I cleaned out my closets. Rearranged my furniture. Cooked breakfast like I actually wanted to eat it. Not like I was rushing out to patch someone else's life. And one Friday afternoon, while browsing through a used bookstore I hadn't visited since college, I met someone. Her name was Jenna. She was thumbing through the same worn copy of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance that I'd just reached for. We both laughed. We got coffee. Then we talked. And before I knew it, 3 hours had gone by and I had told her more about myself than I'd told my parents in the last 5 years. There was no big moment. No movie-like pause. But there was something in the way she said, "You don't owe anyone your peace." You know, that stuck with me long after we said goodbye. Maybe I didn't. Maybe for the first time in my life, I could keep it for myself. The next message came 2 weeks later. This time, it wasn't a guilt trip. It was desperation. Caleb, the mortgage payment bounced. Can we please talk? That was from my dad. No more cold business tone. No more assumed obedience. I didn't respond. An hour later, Mom sent one too. We're falling behind. Zach said he can't help this month. Please, Caleb. There it was. Not, Zach will figure it out. Not, we trust him. Just, silence from their golden boy. I stood in my kitchen, sipping coffee from a mug Jenna had picked out for me on a thrift shop date. And realized something. They weren't just panicking because the bills were piling up. They were panicking because for the first time, I wasn't there to save them. They had built a system where I carried the weight. And now the whole thing was collapsing without me. And you know what? That wasn't my fault. It was theirs. They bet on Zach. They chose him over me. They made the will. They made the rules. Now they had to live by them. I put my phone down, opened a window, and let the breeze in. It came in the mail, an envelope with my name written in my mother's handwriting. Not a bill, not a text, not a voicemail, a letter. I almost didn't open it. For weeks, I had protected my peace like it was something fragile and new. Because it was, and I didn't want to let her words crawl back in and undo all the space I'd fought so hard to create. But curiosity is a hell of a thing. So I sat down on the couch, turned my phone face down, and opened it. Caleb, I don't expect this to fix anything. And I don't blame you for the silence. I guess I just needed you to know that we didn't set out to hurt you. We thought we were protecting someone who couldn't protect himself. Maybe we were wrong about who needed protecting. You were always strong. Maybe that's why we leaned on you so hard. But we didn't realize how much weight we were putting on you until you stepped away. The house is quiet now. Zach moved in with a friend. Your father's trying to take care of the yard. It's not going great. I miss you, not just your help. You. Love always. Mom. I sat there with the letter in my hands for a long time. It didn't change what they did. It didn't undo the betrayal. But it was honest. And I could feel that. Maybe for the first time. I didn't cry. I didn't write back. But I folded the letter carefully and slid it into a drawer, not out of guilt. But because it felt like something that belonged to the version of me that was still healing. And he deserved to keep it. I didn't plan on visiting. It just happened. One rainy Sunday morning, I found myself driving toward the house. I wasn't even sure why. Closure? Curiosity? Boredom? Maybe it was just time. The driveway was cracked. Grass taller than I remembered. The mailbox still leaned a little to the left. I didn't knock right away. I just stood there, watching water trickle down the old front porch railing I once spent an entire summer sanding and repainting. Then the door opened. Dad looked older, smaller. Caleb, he said, surprised. You didn't call. I shrugged. Didn't plan to. He stepped aside without saying anything. I walked in. The house was the same, but different. A little colder. A little quieter. The air smelled like dust and leftover winter. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one I had placed the will on months ago. There were no speeches, no dramatic apologies. But eventually, he looked at me and said, I was wrong. And that was enough. I didn't move back into their lives. I didn't start paying their bills again. Didn't bring Zach back into my orbit. Didn't revert to the version of me that they had come to rely on like a service line that never went offline. But I didn't disappear, either. After that visit, I started calling once every few weeks. Short, calm conversations, mostly with Mom, sometimes with Dad, never with Zach. I set boundaries, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the kind of way that made it clear I wasn't there to fix anything anymore. I could offer my voice. Not my time, not my wallet, not my silence. And strangely, they didn't fight me on it. Not anymore. I think they'd finally realized that people, even their children, don't come with unlimited credit lines of patience and forgiveness. Sometimes love is present, even if it comes with distance. By summer, I had moved into a new apartment in the foothills outside of Eugene. It had a small garden, a porch with a swing, and a neighbor who brought fresh eggs every Sunday. Jenna came over often. She never pressed about my family. Never pried. But one evening, as we sat on the porch watching fireflies blink between the trees, she asked, "Do you regret cutting them off?" I thought about it, really thought about it, and I answered truthfully, "No, I regret needing to." She nodded, like she understood. And she did. That night, after she left, I pulled out the letter from Mom one last time. I read it by lamplight. Then folded it gently, slid it back in the envelope, and placed it in the back of my filing cabinet, right behind my lease. But far ahead of anything I'd want to forget. Some memories aren't meant to be displayed. They're just meant to be stored. They didn't change completely. Dad still forgot passwords. Mom still sent passive-aggressive texts about holidays. Zach stayed Zach. But I changed. I became a man who no longer offered pieces of himself to people who couldn't hold them with care. A man who answered the phone when he wanted to. Not out of guilt. A man who, when the next will is written, his own, will choose to pass down something more than money. He'll pass down peace. Because peace is earned. And sometimes, it begins with the door you close behind you, and never fully reopen again.